hello, 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 welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. Are you okay? Welcome to this creative sanctuary, the brainchild of the collaborative team, Mary, of Marion and Edward MacDowell. This is going to be a wonderful afternoon. But before I go any further, I want to read you our land acknowledgement, which I started 2 years ago. It's also printed in your program. MacDowell's staff and board acknowledge that our residency program takes place in Wabanaki, the Dawn Land, on the traditional homelands of the Western Abenaki people on the Pegantoguk River in what we now call Peterborough. And we recognize the hardships they endure as a result of the loss of their unceded land. We also acknowledge that our New York, We also acknowledge that our New York office is located on the Lenape land. We lament the devastation of centuries of warfare and colonialism and join voices within our field of artist communities calling for a necessary illumination of the history of and the investment in the future of the indigenous peoples of North America. We acknowledge the continued presence and sovereignty of indigenous communities and nations today, and thank our indigenous colleagues and fellows for their goodwill in our ongoing efforts to collaborate in the challenges of decolonizing the arts. MacDowell begins with efforts to understand the history of the indigenous people of our region through outreach to local and national indigenous communities and by evaluating and adjusting our residency programming to be safe and welcoming to all indigenous artists. Art is a powerful tool for imagination, reckoning, and change. And MacDowell is committed to offering a safe place for such art to be made. Thank you. We mentioned communities intentionally in that statement 3 times because it is through communities, including those that we belong to, as well as those foreign to us and that we wish to get to know, that we derive our strength, become educated, get support, and make progress in this world. We need communities. You could look at this micro community of women on this stage. And note that MacDowell makes this case. Marion MacDowell understood the value of strong community when she enlisted the townspeople of Peterborough to create the first of 5 annual pageants in our amphitheater. And if you walk around, the amphitheater is still there for you to visit. After the first of them, 2 brief years after the death of her husband, she took to the road in winters, and this was when there really were winters, to perform Edward's music in front of clubs and women's groups across the country, appearing before numerous communities, raising money to build studios and ensure that this amazing place would get off to a great start. She persisted for 25 years. She thankfully ignored the powerful men who thought she should give up the foolish idea, the Peterborough idea, and instead committed the rest of her life to actualizing the creative oasis that is like no other. She was part of a strong community, and she engendered another. When I first arrived for my residency, my first residency in 2016, it was shortly after my father's death and that pivotal presidential election. I found a gloriously diverse community of artists from all corners of the country and the globe working in several fields. I can tell you, as a Black woman of a certain age, just how tricky it can be to enter some communities, but the community of MacDowell Fellows is extraordinarily broad-minded and welcoming, and I should say has a marvelous staff. Let's continue to build, good, thank you. Let's continue to build our strong community right here, a wonderful community already. Let me introduce all of you to MacDowell Fellows, past or present. Fellows, past or present, please stand up and remain standing while we recognize you and give you a round of applause. Stay there. Stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay up, stay up, stay up. Now, if you have your own art practice and you were not a fellow, whether your practice is amateur or professional, please stand up. Okay. Stay there, stay there, stay there. And if you came here because you love the arts, please stand up. Yes. And if there's anybody still sitting and you accompanied somebody who's standing, please stand up. Okay. Excuse me. No. Stand up and give yourselves a round of applause. Now, this is our community. And as Madam Chairman of the MacDowell Board, I want to ask you to actualize materially your support. Materially. You can do that. You can write a check right now. You can go to the website. You can hand a check to any of the staff here. But make your support material. Now, as we at MacDowell know well, the strength of any community comes from its diversity. That's true among MacDowell Fellows as well. Our fellows tell us all the time that, and I can attest to this because I've heard it, that the gender diversity, the racial diversity, the diversity in cultural background, in ages, in experience, and diversity in artistic presence, all these differences make for a valuable and ever-evolving coteries of fellows. And the fellows rotate out. Not everybody comes at the same time and leaves at the same time. So we have a continual, I could call it a refreshment, of fellows all the time. We're constantly learning from each other and hearing different viewpoints, picking up information from artist presentations, which the artists are not forced to give. The artist presentations are purely voluntary. And of course, at dinners. This cross-disciplinary pollination is overwhelmingly mentioned as one of the surprising rewards that artists take away from their MacDowell experience. As a result of the interaction, the exchange of ideas, as when a composer talks shop with a printer, or a choreographer chats with a poet, or a novelist gets into a discussion of story with an architect, something astonishing often happens. It's a multidisciplinary mashup that can make all the difference in the world. Those of us who cross disciplines or work between them are often referred to as interdisciplinary artists. It's a wide-ranging field, and the medal rotation has come around again this year to the interdisciplinary field. One of my favorite tasks as Madam Chairman of the Board is to begin the process of determining the Edward MacDowell Medal winner by finding someone to help build a selection panel. So you can't just be anointed. There's a panel of experts. This year, we got help in the form of avant-garde multimedia artist, Grammy-winning composer and musician Laurie Anderson to be its chair. As you see, that's fantastic. Then we assembled other members, including Bushwick Star Arts Center co-founder and MacDowell board member Bibi Miller, MacDowell board member Noel Elaine, MacDowell fellow and acclaimed choreographer Bibi Miller, National Black Theater CEO Sharday Lithcott, MacDowell fellow and interdisciplinary artist Christopher Doyle, and Art Students League artistic and executive director Michael Hall. I think you'll agree with me that they did a wonderful job picking our 64th Edward MacDowell Medal winner, interdisciplinary arts icon and activist Yoko Ono. And now I'd like to introduce my board colleague and president of the board of directors, Christine Fisher, who I've gotten to know, respect, and love over the past several years as a hardworking and dedicated supporter of the arts, especially of MacDowell. Christine Fisher, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nell. And good afternoon, everyone. I actually really love this day. It is my second medal day as president of the board of the directors, and I must say that this celebration of the arts is unlike any other that I've been to. At last count, 9,215 artists have come through our doors, all with the desire to take refuge from their lives and the world, to slow down and take advantage of what MacDowell has to offer, space and time in a nurturing environment. Maya Angelou once asked James Baldwin, could you stay alive, vital, and productive without your family? No way, no way, he replied. We have a certain safety because we love each other. Safety. This is why artists need to be in community with other artists, because there is something magical about being with someone who knows your truth, because it is also their truth. I would suggest that another part of safety and family extends beyond the artist to patrons, the board, and all of you. It means support, and I want to acknowledge the part of our family that makes this whole weekend possible. We have many family members here today who deserve our thanks, but I especially want to thank today's leading sponsors, Putnam Foundation, FL Putnam Investment Management Company, and TD Bank. Thank you. I have one other job this afternoon, to introduce our executive director, Chiwoniso Kaitano. I have been president of MacDowell for 14 months, and here is what I've learned about the woman I've been asked to introduce. And we on the board have given the awesome responsibility of guiding this beloved 117-year-old organization forward into our next century. Chiwoniso has a huge heart and an unparalleled passion for the arts, which is evident in everything that she does. Her deep love for MacDowell and its mission is truly inspiring, and it's clear that she's just not leading us, she is one of us. At MacDowell, we have a rich history of legacy of creativity and excellence that we hold very, very dear. But what truly sets Chi apart is her remarkable ability to not only honor our past, but she's keeping a keen eye on our future. She respects where we've been and is constantly envisioning where we can go. Under her leadership, we are proud of our accomplishments and the incredible body of work that has emerged from these sacred grounds, yet we also recognize our journey is far from over. In these times, art matters more than ever, for reasons that each of you could eloquently express. Chi embodies this belief with her passion, her commitment, and her grace. As you listen to her today, I encourage you to imagine her vision for not just what we have done, but what we can achieve together. She truly lives by the words of James Baldwin. The purpose of art is to lay bare the questions that have been hidden by the answers. It's an honor to introduce the leader who not only understands these words, but lives by them every day. Please join me in welcoming Chiwoniso Kaitano.
That was quite the introduction. I wanted to, before I start my remarks, just to say welcome to all of you. I know some of you have come from as near as 10 minutes away down the road, and some of you have come from further afield. Last year I called out my parents and they were really embarrassed, but they're here again. And they came all the way from Zimbabwe, 10,000 miles away. Hi, guys. A very special and warm welcome to a woman who I think many of you know. When I first started this job, I used to think to myself, WWCD, what would Cheryl do? And Cheryl Young, who was executive director of MacDowell for many, many years, is here today. Hi, Cheryl, it's great to see you. Nell mentioned in her remarks that we pulled together a Medal Day panel, and one of the members of the panel managed to make it from New York to join us today, Michael Hall, who's president of the Art Students League. Hi, Michael. And I am saving my warmest welcome from our guest who's wearing the Yoko Ono t-shirt to the left of us. Yeah. Hi. I love a good theme dresser. So as Christine mentioned in her remarks, we have a lot of funders and supporters to thank for making MacDowell shine in the way that it does. But there's also an entire team of people who, besides keeping this engine running for 365 days of the year, make Medal Day stand out. I want to acknowledge Brett Solomon, who's our Director of Public Programming and Events, and his program coordinator, Dan Milbauer. Everything you see here is them and their team just making sure everything is running smoothly. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Dan. I also want to note the staff of kitchen, housekeeping, maintenance. I see some of you all in the back, and our gardeners for their hard work prepping the campus and getting it to this point. It looks beautiful today, but it looks beautiful every day because everyone is hard at work. We've been awarding this medal for 64 years, and would you believe that 3 of the MacDowell staff people, John Sasweta, Courtney Bethel, and Deb Marsh, have been here for, I think, half of them, which is astounding. When Laurie Anderson and the esteemed Medal Day panel selected Yoko Ono as this year's medalist, I took it upon myself to learn all that I could about Yoko's 7-decade career. This included 2 weeks ago a quick trip to London to see a powerful retrospective of her work called Music of the Mind, and it's in one of the world's greatest contemporary museums, the Tate Modern. I had a transformative experience. It's a very special kind of participatory art that invites action and invites audiences from all over the world to think, to engage, and to contribute. It was truly, truly incredible in everything that I believe art should be. A special installation in the exhibit stood out. At the entrance of the retrospective is a wish tree, which at its heart is a peace project. And the peace project is the collected hopes and dreams and wishes of all of those who've paused a moment to write it down and to loop it onto this tree. Today, not only will you be able to visit our artisan studios, but you'll be able to contribute to a Yoko Ono installation right here on campus. MacDowell is honored to join the ranks as one of a very limited number of international locations with not one, but 2 Yoko Ono wish trees. You may have noticed our small orchard if you walked into the 10 Flower North parking field. Since 1996, Yoko has invited people from around the world to write their personal wishes on pieces of paper and tie them to the wish tree. At the end of the day, the wishes will be collected and sent to Yoko, and then they will make their way to the Imagine Peace Tower, a 2007 installation on V-Day Island off Reykjavik, Iceland, dedicated to the memory of John Lennon. Our wishes will be added to a collection of more than 2 million wishes that have already been placed there beneath the towering lights that pierce the sky on special days. Please join us in covering the branches of the designated peach and plum trees with your wishes after the ceremony. Cards and instructions can be found under a tent in our lilac garden adjacent to the orchard. Last year was my first medal day, and we presented the medal to an incredible artist, Alanis Obamsawin, the filmmaker. I was remarking earlier today to Christine and Nell that it's actually quite extraordinary that 2 years in a row, MacDowell has done this incredible thing, which is awarding a medal to 2 women in their 90s who have been making art for many, many decades. Alanis was introduced by Jesse Wente, who spoke about this Abenaki philosophy of 7 generations, and this idea really resonated with me. And the idea is, and I'm sort of talking about this loosely, that what we build here today isn't really for us, but it's for our inheritors, 7 generations in the future. These are people we will never meet, but whom we are nonetheless responsible for. One of my board members calls this ancestral conversations. MacDowell is a beautiful sonic conversation with the past and with the future. The mark of all of those who came before us is everywhere here. And so in our own way today, we leave our mark for those who will come. I urge you today to walk through the woods and listen to the whispers of all that have created art here. Listen to their whispers, but I also want you to leave a wish in the woods for generations to come. And now we're changing our batting order just a little bit. I want to introduce you to a person many of you are familiar with. I am fire, he is ice. He has ice in his veins. I call him my chill man. My friend and the hardest working resident director on earth, David Macy.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Chi. Beautifully said. 7 generations true. So the staff thanks that Chi began with, I need to start today with a call out to the kitchen team, Janine, Wendy, Steve, Babette, and Bev. And especially their leader, Chef Scott Tile, because last night beneath this tent, you wait for it, beneath this tent, Scott served his 19th feast for 250 people. It was his swan song. He will be leaving us by the end of this year. And for 20 years, without a single missed beat, Scott and his team have put 3 delicious meals on the table, 365 days a year, Now, if you're doing the math in your head, that's 22,000 servings of artistic inspiration. Scott, I know that you're still at work, but I hope that you can hear the crowd when they acknowledge you for being an utterly brilliant chef, a dear friend, and a manager of unmatched integrity. When I was first assigned a speaking part in the medal ceremony, there was no tougher act to follow walking up to the lectern than board chairman Robin McNeil. Robin was known as the broadcast journalist and co-anchor of the PBS McNeil-era NewsHour. He was also a trained Shakespearean actor with an immaculate baritone that could make a recitation of the periodic table seem brilliant. Here on the Medal Day stage, he revealed a less serious side of himself. He delivered his lines with immaculate comic timing. So while I was deeply saddened by his passing in April, so many good memories have floated back to the surface in the months since, and many of those memories were made right here with many of you. And Robin was, and speaking of Cheryl Young, you were here for a few of those. Tom Putnam, I think I saw you here. Hey, Tom. Bravo. Well, that is the dream team there. So great to have you back. And as if you think back to those 18 years, during that time, MacDowell awarded more than 4,000 fellowships to 3,000 artists from 49 states, 48 countries, 57% of them women, 44% of them writers like Robin. So I will simply say that I miss Robin and end with a quote from him. I don't think I can do the baritone. I am comfortable being associated with things that are modest, that are not shouting advertisements for themselves, not flaunting celebrity, and that defines MacDowell. It is comforting to be a part of something that is so good and yet can be quite shy about it. So, to you, Robin. It's become a commonplace, and somebody says it almost every year. It's always printed in the press that Medal Day is the only day of the year when MacDowell is open to the public. And in reality, MacDowell is not hermetically sealed. If you live in striking distance of the Monadnock region, you are hereby invited to MacDowell Downtown. It's a series that I've curated and introduced downtown Peterborough since 2002, held on the first Friday of the month, March through November. One of those voluntary artist presentations is exported into Bass Hall at the Monadnock Center for History and Culture. The next installment will be Friday, August 2nd, when LA-based writer and musician Claire L. Evans will share her work. She blends art, biology, and technology, and I can't wait to find out what she's got to say. With that, it is time to pivot toward the ceremonial, and to carry us into Yoko's world, I'm happy to introduce Nora Halpern, celebrated curator, art historian, arts policy specialist, lifelong advocate for art, artists, democracy, and justice. Her bio is printed in today's program, including major projects with Yoko in 2005 and 2009. The latter, a retrospective at the Venice Biennale, 50 years of Yoko's work installed in a 15th century palazzo. For more than 2 decades, Halpern has served as vice president at the arts advocacy juggernaut Americans for the Arts. She is currently in the 2nd year of her appointment to the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities. And with so many balls in the air, and with so many airplanes grounded, We are deeply grateful that she has prioritized this occasion to be with us and help us celebrate the work of Yoko Ono. Please give a warm Medal Day welcome to Nora Halpern.
Hi, everybody. And hi, Yoko, who's watching on live stream. I guess I should put my glasses on. So first of all, thank you, David. It's truly an honor to have been asked by the artist and by her studio to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and humans, and that's Yoko Ono. First, I want to thank Nell, Christine, Chi, Brett, Anya, Jean, and Jericho for the invitation to speak and also for making me feel so welcome. I particularly want to thank Brett, which David alluded to, for his wizardry yesterday in getting me up here on time, despite global internet shutdowns and airline disruptions. So I made it, and it is a miracle. I also want to acknowledge this beautiful site here on the unceded lands of the Western Abenaki peoples. I want to honor those who came before us, and as one who was raised on the unceded lands of the Lenape, Tongva, and Chumash, and who currently resides on the land of the Piscataway and Algonquins, I want to thank the ancestors and those who are among us today. At this fractured moment in time, where every bit of what used to feel like solid footing seems to be devolving into quicksand, I always look to artists to keep me grounded, which is why being at MacDowell is so meaningful to me. I rely heavily on artists who throughout my life serve as inspiration and have always led me forth in expansive ways. And first among those is Yoko Ono. Since the 1960s, Yoko's work has examined the quixotic balance of each of our places in relation to art, nature, the world, and each other. Her conceptual instruction pieces, sculptures, and music serve as a source of contemplation, as well as succinct calls to expansive action. I was indoctrinated into Ono world very early on. When I was a kid, my eldest sister, Amy, an artist and experimental filmmaker immersed in the New York Fluxus movement, gave me a copy of Yoko Ono's book, Grapefruit. I know that copies are available on campus, and I almost insist that you pick one up and look at it. The book is small, as you can see. It was the perfect size for my little fists, and the ultimate gift from an eldest sibling who loved to challenge, provoke, and teach. From its cover shone the face of this woman, with long, full hair and deep, probing eyes. Someone, it felt, who you could really sit across a table from and have a chat with. Its big typed text, simple sentences, cajoling narratives, and scattered drawings made it my favorite book as a child, and as you can see from all of the notes and stickies, it has remained a constant companion throughout my life. When I first met Yoko in 1997, we hit it off instantly. It was as if we had known each other forever. She said something like, "I like the way you think. We're on the same crazy page." And this, of course, came as no shock to me, as I explained to her, since it was she who had helped my worldview through the texts and drawings of Grapefruit. It shouldn't have been all surprising that we were so in sync. We were literally on the same page, thanks to this beautiful little book. It has always bothered me that the majority of the world knows Yoko best through her relationship to her late husband. This, of course, is a familiar story for many incandescent partners of well-known figures. I feel very fortunate that I got to know Yoko first and foremost as an artist in her own right, as a woman who has never stood in anyone else's shadow. It was, in fact, her power as an artist which first drew Lenin to connect with her. Theirs was a union of equals, and they were powerful collaborators in art, activism, and life. Together, they wrote the song Imagine, which has become a universal anthem for positive change, as resonant today as it was when it was written. They also composed a lesser-known but equally beautiful and resonant collaboration in 1969 entitled Remember Love, and recorded it during one of their bed-ins for peace. This song, like Imagine and Lenin's Give Peace a Chance, are set up in the same way as Yoko's instruction pieces, so her conceptual approach as an artist fully informed the music that she and her husband created together and independently. I think the best way to describe the power of Yoko's art is to share it. So I want to read one of my favorite instruction pieces. It was and remains profoundly impactful and empowering to me. And it is called Light Piece. It was written in autumn of 1963. Carry an empty bag. Go to the top of the hill. Pour all the light you can see in it. Go home when it's dark. Hang the bag in the middle of your room in place of a light bulb. It's worth applause. I have always loved this piece because it empowers the reader to take ownership of their circumstances. Even as a child, I never read it literally. In fact, I never would have been able to complete the task as I grew up on the 8th floor of a New York City apartment building. But it sure got me thinking early on about self-possession, manifesting change, as well as instilling an expansive definition of what makes an artwork. Yoko's work has a simplistic strength and optimism to it, which no doubt is informed by her childhood spent in hiding during the Allied forces' bombings of Japan during World War II. During that period, Yoko and her brother were sent to the country, far from their Tokyo home, where they suffered terribly with, among other things, starvation. In their weakened states, they used to lay on the ground and look up at the sky, making up imaginary meals and seeing the continuous sky and horizon as the connective tissue which bonded them to the world they left behind and to a better imagined future. Pieces throughout Yoko's career have featured the sky as if a continuation of this lived concept of connection, but on a global scale. Another of my favorite works, which clearly represents Yoko's dedication to unity, peace, and coexistence, is Play It by Trust from 1966, which presents an all-white chessboard with all white pieces. Set up for a traditional game, as players begin their moves, it soon becomes clear that the competition and skill usually required for chess is quickly neutralized, and the players are all of a sudden on the same team, so to speak, instead of each other's adversaries. What better message could we have today as a democracy as it stands in the balance? This sense of mutuality and bonds versus divides is key to Yoko's philosophy of life, as well as her artistic practice. She, who has experienced so much unimaginable horror and violence firsthand, is also one of the most open, empathetic, optimistic, and forgiving people I know. It's inspiring to hear her talk about the power of forgiveness. Again, it goes back to her hope for unity between all people. Much of Yoko's work is not completed until the viewer interacts with it, as Chi had mentioned. Again, it's about relationships and community building. Today, you'll have an opportunity to interact with Yoko's work in a number of ways. And while I know Yoko regrets that she can't be here physically present today, she is omnipresent in all that she manifests as an artist and spirit, both on this campus and throughout the world. One of the greatest gifts in my life has been my deep friendship with Yoko. She is a loving, challenging, nurturing, very funny, and enduring force who seems to permeate every aspect of my worldview. For this, I will always be grateful. Her life's work are vehicles for contemplation and roadmaps to a kinder, peace-filled, collective future. It is her brilliance, generosity of spirit, and optimistic vision, both as an artist and a human, which continues to carry me through. And I hope through her art that all of you can experience this same sense of connection too. Thank you for including me in this beautiful day. It's now my pleasure to introduce David Newgarden. Now, David is Yoko's longtime music manager, as well as the general manager of Chimera Music, a label established by Yoko and her son, Sean Ono Lennon. As you might know, John and Yoko formed a band called the Plastic Ono Band, with the concept that its members remain forever fluid, interchangeable, or plastic, so to speak. So in that spirit, David is here representing Yoko and accepting the award on her behalf. As I mentioned, she is listening, so she is with us today and watching. And she'll always remain the leader of the band for all of us. So thank you.
It is my enormous pleasure to offer you, David, the MacDowell Medal to Yoko Ono.
I apologize, I'm not as exciting as Yoko. But she's very modest. I don't have to be modest. Yoko turned 91 in February. She can't attend today due to her advanced age, but she sends her love. And as Nora mentioned, she's watching on the live web stream. Hi, Yoko, if everybody wants to give her a wave to the camera. The history of the MacDowell medalists is absolutely astounding. To name a few, Thornton Wilder, Georgia O'Keeffe, Sonny Rollins, Leonard Bernstein, Robert Frost, Toni Morrison, Joan Didion, Merce Cunningham, and so many other inspiring artists. MacDowell has a long history of championing avant-garde art. Edgar Varese and Alexander Calder received medals in the early 1960s. In recent years, the medal's been presented to innovators and square pegs and oddball geniuses doing things their own way, like Flickr filmmaker Stan Brakhage, cartoonist Art Spiegelman, animator Chuck Jones, and documentary filmmaker Les Blank. It will be a joy for me to deliver the MacDowell Medal to Yoko Ono. On behalf of Yoko, I thank Nora and Nell. Thank you, Christine, Andy Senchak, Eleanor Briggs, Kaitano, David Macy, Brett Evans Solomon, Jericho Parms, Anya Maping Kuipers, Chef Scott Tile, and all the MacDowell community. I'd like to thank Laurie Anderson and the others on this year's medal committee who selected Yoko. Thank you, Edward MacDowell, and especially Marianne MacDowell. Yoko wants to thank all the citizens of the world, the residents of New Hampshire, and especially, particularly Peterborough. What a good town to live in. Yoko's father and aunt were accomplished classical musicians. She was classically trained and was a serious student of opera as well as Japanese traditional music and folk songs. In 1960 and 61, before I was born, and it was over a year before the Beatles recorded their first record, Yoko co-presented and hosted concerts and Fluxus art events in her loft apartment at 112 Chambers Street in Manhattan. At the first concert, there were 3 people in the audience, John Cage, David Tudor, and poet MC Richards. Yoko recalls that at the second or third concert, Peggy Guggenheim brought Max Ernst and Marcel Duchamp to attend. In 1964, Yoko performed her powerful performance artwork cut piece at Carnegie Recital Hall. You can see this in the film screening in the library later today. The piece explores vulnerability, aggression, and gender-based violence. In London, she exhibited at Indica Gallery in 1966 and performed with jazz great Ornette Coleman at Royal Albert Hall in 1968. In the 1970s, Nora talked about quite a bit, Yoko famously collaborated with musician John Lennon, and she brought him into her world of performance art, the avant-garde, and activism, while he inspired her to make rock music. I started working with Yoko in 2008 when she was 74 years old. She hadn't recorded new music for nearly 12 years, but we then recorded 4 new albums between 2009 and 2018. She was featured in retrospectives in over a dozen major museums around the world, including MoMA, Bilbao Guggenheim, and currently the Tate Modern in London. In these years, I worked on Yoko concerts around the world with her son, Sean Ono Lennon, joined by many renowned colleagues and musicians that Yoko has inspired. Among them, Paul Simon, Iggy Pop, Bette Midler, Anoni, RZA from Wu-Tang Clan, John Zorn, Lady Gaga, and many more. At age 75, for the first time ever in her career, Yoko received a great reception from music critics, 4- and 5-star reviews of her album Between My Head and the Sky. The critics were starting to catch up with Yoko. As I worked with Yoko in her 70s and 80s, it was extraordinarily hard for me to keep up with Yoko. She constantly wore me out. Yoko once said, and later tweeted, "Art for me is like breathing. I have a need to do it." Yoko's being honored today by MacDowell as an interdisciplinary artist. Yoko never met a medium she didn't like. She is a pioneer of performance art and conceptual art, and as Nora discussed, wrote fantastic and poetic instruction pieces. She's worked in sculpture and three-dimensional art and photography. She drew with pen and ink and painted and did Japanese calligraphy. She has worked with unusual artistic media like billboards, trees, rotting fruit, and her husband's shattered eyeglasses. Yoko designed a 12,000-foot tower of light powered by geothermal energy in the Imagine Peace Tower on Viti Island in Iceland. She created experimental art films. I encourage you to watch a few of her 1960s Fluxus films in the beautiful James Baldwin Library this afternoon. In music, she worked in rock, dance music, and avant-garde improvisation. Her songs run from poignant ballads to wild, uninhibited vocalizations. She's a composer, distinctive and unique singer, and a provocative lyricist. Yoko's lyrics of the 70s and 80s are eerily pertinent today. She was ahead of her time in addressing many issues through her music: gender equality, women's rights and gay rights, world peace and ending war, open borders, ecology, and caring for the planet. Today, there's still so much more work ahead of us. To the artists in the audience, Yoko encourages you to use your art to change the world. Today, I'd like to pass the torch from Yoko to a future generation of creators. Be bold, be confident, be brave, be adventurous, be revolutionary, be true to yourself, break down boundaries, make art with humanity and empathy and compassion. I've had the terrific pleasure to spend this weekend with my family on the grounds of MacDowell and observe the magic of the MacDowell community, supporting and encouraging hundreds of artists each year. I applaud MacDowell for discovering and supporting and championing artists who don't fit neatly into boxes. It's an honor to work with Yoko and to accept this award on her behalf. In the past 16 years, I've had the privilege to watch her up close and observe her creating in performances and rehearsals, in the recording studio, at her kitchen table. I'm always learning from her, but she likes to say that she herself is still learning and doing new things. Continuous learning and trying new things keeps us young. Whether you're an artist or an appreciator of arts, or you just know what you like, a lesson I learned from Yoko is to bring creativity and passion to everything you do, every day. Your home, your garden, your dinner table, your parenting, your grandparenting. Make art in your mind, make art in your dreams, look for art in the sky. Use your day-to-day creativity to foster positive change in the world. As Yoko says, imagine peace. After David Macy delivers concluding remarks, Yoko would like everyone to walk over to the wish tree over in the orchard, just over yonder. Her instructions: make a wish, write it down on a piece of paper, fold it and tie it down to a branch of the wish tree. A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream we dream together is reality.
This is very easy. The concluding remark today is that there are no concluding remarks.